We lived in Chesterfield, Virginia, 20 miles south of the Philip Morris plant, where our next door neighbors worked. I associated Philip Morris with cigarettes and factories. I didn't know that the company had just merged with Kraft and now sold a third of the nation's cheeses. It was the era of got milk and milk it does a body good. It was the era of Khalees's head milkshake. It was the era of osteoporosis awareness. My brothers and I drank a lot of milk in that kitchen. We went through 2 gallons a week, maybe more, from Ukrops or Food Lion or Giant, our three supermarkets. Store brand milk with nondescript labels, no images of cows, whether cartoonish or pastoral. I didn't think much about the origins of the milk that I was swallowing, though I had only to look around me, and there they sort of were. I didn't think much about our last name either, except when introducing myself, except when it prompted reactions. Milks, you must be in dairy, wink. Then I thought about it glumly. What a weird, maybe gross thing to be named after. So there.
Thank you for that reading. I mean, I love this image of you as a child being sort of surveilled by Big Cow, but also you are consuming the cow. I love that phrase, like them burying their bodies in yours. It's very, I mean, I feel like it's so indicative of the entanglement of human and cow in this book. But I wanted to ask about, this is a book that feels like you were destined to write. No one else could write Mega Milk, I think. And you write in the book that you were actually reluctant to write a book about milk and you didn't want to devote so many years of your life to researching milk and that you actually tried to rename it several times. So I was curious if you could talk a little bit about how this book came to be and also your relationship with the name.
Mhm. Sure. Yeah, so this book had a few different origin points. The first, I guess, like maybe in 2010, a couple of things happened. One, I came up with the Halloween costume Megan Milks the Cow as like a reclamation of my childhood nickname. Um, and then I was invited to like pitch something to this Chicago news quarterly venture, The Landline. And the thing that I came up with was a column series called Name Tags. And for the first column of that series, I did this kind of deep dive into Megan Milks, like the name Megan Milks and various associations. Around the same time, I learned about this Megan Milks, who lives in Florida. And from a Google alert, I learned that he was the cover model for the It's All Butch calendar. Uh, and after that, I learned that there was yet another queer Megan Milks living in Texas. Yeah, I don't know. I was sort of like, is there something queer about this name?
How does it feel to be the second most famous Megan Mills?
Well, I wanted to ask. Well, I didn't want. I wanted to actually get to know this person, but she's very hard to track down. Um, I wanted to know what it was like to be the first most famous Megan Mills. Um, yeah, so
Megan Milks, if you are watching, let's say.
I just want to say hi. I'm trying contacting her many times. um, yeah. Oh, and then another origin point was like 2017 when Get Out was released, Jordan Peele's masterwork of American horror. And there's that like infamous milk scene where Allison Williams's character is sipping from this tall glass of milk while doing these dastardly deeds. And I became really interested in some of these like other cultural meanings related to milk. And then, yeah, like after my novel came out in 2021, I was just kind of like hunting around for for new like book projects. And these things had been percolating for a while. And I guess like the other thing that I haven't said is that during all of this time, I was really kind of continuously agonizing over the question of whether or not to change my name and tried out various options that just didn't stick. So I was just sort of like constantly thinking about names and about my name and then I wrote this book.
And were there like, I guess, how do you feel about the name now? Like, are you good with the book's name? Were there any old titles that you discarded that you still have like fondness for?
Yeah, I tried. Gene and I went back and forth for a long time. Well, I don't know if it was a long time, but I feel like I was constantly emailing Gene. What about this title? What about this title? I was really trying to get away from this title, but actually, I think it's like the best title that it could be. It feels really right. When I'm thinking about discarded titles, let's see. I really liked the Living Fluid for a while, um, and Milk Fever, Milk Magnet, because I did become something of a milk magnet while I was working on this book. Like everything milk was like attracted to me. Um, yeah. But yeah, no, I think it definitely needs to be Mega Milk. That is the name.
It's the perfect title. Yeah. Well, I guess to follow up on something that you were saying, you mentioned this milk scene with Allison Williams in Get Out. One of the big threads of this book is the connection between milk and white supremacy, which I found really interesting. You write about milk, how milk has become like this Nazi symbol, and the connection between like drinking milk and eugenics. I would love if you could talk more about those connections and also what your experience was like to write about them, especially through the lens of personal essay.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, I mean, from the start, it seemed really clear that I couldn't write a book about milk without writing about the relationship between milk and whiteness and between milk and white supremacy because they're just so entangled. And that has everything to do with the false claim that those who have bodies that are lactose persistent, which are majority white people, are somehow superior um, because that is like linked to this other bogus claim that like milk is somehow like the superior food, which is not true either. And then there's the other part of it, which is that milk is literally white. It's a white substance, white-ish, as I get into a little bit in the book. Um, and so then it's imbued with all these qualities of like purity and cleanness, wholesomeness, and perfection. And so that's all of this like tangle that makes it very easily weaponized by eugenicists and white supremacists. Um, so what was it like to write about that in the form of a personal essay? I mean, it was pretty overwhelming just because there's so much to potentially get into, and that was one of the challenges for me, especially in the one essay that uh, uh, there are a few different areas in the book that focus on the racial politics of milk, but there's one essay that really centrally focuses on it. And that essay at one point was like three times the size of what it is ultimately in the final version. So one of the questions was just like scope, how do I handle like all of these complex multiple histories and different cultural meanings. Uh, and I chose like three different historical periods to bring together, one of which kind of like uh, well, one of which came to me through a source that I happened to meet at a party, Josh Cohen, who I think might be here, who's been working on a book about the cultural power of milk in Renaissance Europe, which is where talking a lot about uh, the role of breast milk in blood purity laws and how that's like part of early histories of race and constructions of race and racial difference. And then I also talked a little bit about the history of eugenics in the early 20th century, and then making those connections to more recent um, cultural politics, where you know um, we've seen a lot of like pro milk rhetoric just being um, uh, pro milk rhetoric just circulating within white nationalist communities very overtly. Yeah, sorry,
Yeah.
rambling there.
No, 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 not rambling. I mean, milk is having a moment, but I think this is maybe the best thing to come out of milk's moment as a lactose intolerant person. Is my only way I should be consuming milk. Um, I wanted to ask, about form. You mentioned in this book, you quote, I think, a Philip Lope essay about like the act of essaying as sort of you're taking this slice of autobiography and you're squeezing all you can about a specific moment or a specific idea and like leaving the rest as potential future reference. And you describe it as in this book, I'm milking milk, which I really liked. I wonder, I was like, how many times is milk said in this book? A lot. But I wanted to ask how you decided on personal essay as a form for this book, and if there were any forms that you like flirted with or discarded along the way.
Yeah, it has always been a book of it has always been a collection of personal essays. I guess when I was proposing it, my agent and I described it as a memoir in essays, which I think it's still describable as, but I'm not sure, how much it how much it like corresponds to the conventions of the memoir as a genre. Um, but yeah, always a set of essays. I really love the essay as a form. It's so malleable. It's so dynamic. It can be so many things. It can be a web. It can be a braid. It can be a net. It can be a squeeze machine. It can be a milking machine. It can be a milk full breast, leaky udder. Yeah, it can be clogged. It can flow. I mean, we could go on. Uh, but yeah, so there weren't any other forms that I was trying to discarding while I was writing the book. But each essay, anyone who's read my work would guess that I'm like a real nerd when it comes to like structure and form and shape. And yeah, I think each essay went through many stages of where I was trying out and discarding forms and shapes and structures and trying to find the right one.
I mean, it makes for this book that feels. I feel like when I was first reading it, I was like, it's kind of frothing. Like it feels very dynamic. You don't know what the next essay will look like, what it'll be like. There are these recurring motifs that sort of return throughout the book. But yeah, so much fun, like formal experimentation in the essay as a form, which I really loved. But I wanted to ask you about research for this book because it is nonfiction and you do a lot of different forms of research. You go to a manure expo, you read about history and science, you go to various farms, some that have cows, some that don't have cows. All farms are important. And you also report on your own family history. So I was curious if you could talk a little bit about how you approached researching this book and how you figured out which threads you wanted to follow.
Mhm. Yeah, I think from the start, it was really important for me to avoid writing a book where most of the scenes were like me behind the screen, researching online, or me like reading books. And also, it would have been, I think, irresponsible for me to write a book about milk without like going to farms and like talking to people who are involved in dairy, and also without talking to people who have lactated, who have nursed, because that's not an experience I've had. So I really wanted to challenge myself to kind of be in the world, both to expand my knowledge and also to give myself opportunities for scenes, just to make a more lively essay. Was there another part of that question?
Well, I guess like how did you figure out which threads you wanted to follow? Like were there any research strands that were abandoned or sort of emerged in the process that you didn't initially conceptualize?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I went to the USDA archives, and that was sort of like didn't really give me much that I needed. Um, Let me think. There were times when I thought maybe what I needed to do was drink a lot of dairy milk. Um, but I did not do that.
What's the law?
Great question. I think over the 3 years that I was really focused on working on this, I probably bought maybe 3 half gallons of fluid dairy milk and could not finish any of them. So I did try to experiment with, other various plant-based milks. I did consume a lot of yogurt and cheese, and ice cream.
Famous allies of milk.
um, and then I think the one thing that emerged that I wasn't expecting was uh, when I learned about the bovine semen industry, which I'll read from it in a minute. I came up with an experiential way to explore that, which we'll get into. Is now the time.
Now is the time for the bovine semen industry part of this talk. Megan has another reading for us that I won't spoil.
Okay. Okay, I'm gonna read. This is a printout because this is like an abridged version of the first half of this essay. Um, so this is called Milking the Bull. When I see the container in which my bull semen order has been shipped, I want to laugh. I had no idea what to expect, and it's not this, a girthy blue cylindrical tank in the shape of R2D2, the Cattle Visions logo blaring from the front. Among the stacks of Amazon and Chewy boxes in the lobby of my building, it's comically incongruous and tall, rises past my knee. The doorman asks no questions. I lug it by the metal bucket handle into the elevator, then down the hall to my apartment, where I heave it onto the kitchen table. King George has arrived. Proverbially, milking the bull means to undertake a futile endeavor. The idiom rests on the assumptions that bulls cannot be milked. Whoever originated this proverb didn't anticipate an industry based on bull semen collection, a practice that involves the milking of bull penises with what are called artificial vaginas, not so dissimilar from the milk pups attached to cows' teats. A typical bull donor can produce anywhere from 10 to 60 billion sperm per week. From this haul, breeders create doses of about 20 million sperm apiece that are sold online to beef and dairy farmers who use them to inseminate their cows. Some of my friends who've searched through human sperm donor profiles online have told me they had a strong feeling when they stumbled onto the. I saw my bull donor's photo and just knew. PHFDC King George 725 lives, grazes, and ejaculates into a rubber sleeve on a farm in southeastern Ohio. His semen is stored at and available for purchase from Cattle Visions, a national collection center based in Clark, Missouri. Cattle Visions describes itself as home to the hottest sires. What makes King George so hot? He's a handsome guy, broad chested and solidly muscled, but so are all of these advertised sires. In comparison to some other much bigger bulls producing costlier semen, King George's size is modest. The most expensive units on Cattle Visions are $500 each. Their source, a pristine white Charolais bull named, wait for it, M&M Outsider 4003. Oh, am I turning this off? Sorry. Is this on? Okay. M&M Outsider 4003 PLD. This is the most expensive guy. Has produced multiple show champions. Despite his magnificence, I'm unmoved by M&M Outsider, whose head is tiny and countenance smug, and I definitely can't afford him. By contrast, King George is a humble bull, his expression shy and skeptical. His coat is midnight and sleek, his dense muscularity softened by a thick layer of fat. Mostly uncompelled by his shine, his resignation, and his price tag. One unit sells for $40. This is about average for bulls. According to his donor page, King George's pedigree is loaded with success. Limited use of li- Is this working? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Limited use of King George has produced big results, it reads. His calves have added frame size, extension through their front one third, and are extremely square and sound at the ground. He will work in a variety of situations and make females that can compete at any level. King George's genetic merit is ample. The lives of bull donors or studs vary significantly. A stud like King George might be led into the ejaculation stall 1 to 3 times a week, producing 1 to 2 spurts or collections of semen each time. I'm guessing from his affordability and the fact that his sperm is banked in another state that he lives on a smaller farm where he may or may not have free range on pasture seasonally when he's not brought in to be milked. At larger breeding farms, a stud might never leave his stall and be milked twice a day. Some distribution centers house their bulls on site inside barns where they live out their lives, never leaving the enclosures due to health concerns. Some would say some would say they lead pampered lives. They get air conditioning, mattresses, a balanced feed approved by nutritional scientists, an on-site vet, and frequent sexual stimulation. But I've seen a video of a 4-year-old rescue bull stud being released into a field for the first time. You can measure the impact of his limited barn life by the euphoric intensity of his zoomies. He rushed, he bucked, he zigzagged. His hooves had never before touched pasture, and the contact infused them with energy like fuel. I stumbled onto King George a year ago. I was at a residency in Memphis searching maps for dairy farms I might try to visit while there. I didn't find any, but I did find this genetic center and I browsed its sub profiles until I stopped on his. I shared the profile with B, my love at the time. And we dreamed up an artificial insemination seed that we'd do as part of this book. B is a Taurus, so I would be the cow. Or I could be the bull and they would be a teaser steer. B suggested we search for a third, another Taurus, one person for semen handling, the other to do sexy things to the cow. My add on Lex would read something like this. Trans non binary writer seeks second Taurus for co-topping a scene involving bovine semen. You would not be handling the semen. Must be reliable with scheduling and okay with the scene being written about in a published essay. You would be pseudonymized. While you're being a Taurus would add something special, please be in touch if you are interested in participating in the scene and yet are not a Taurus. I wrote the ad and waited to post it until we had a sense of time frame. My Lex handle would be at bovine semen experiment, linked to a new Instagram account with the same handle and featuring King George's image as the profile pic. Summer B and I were either in conflict or one of us was traveling. I thought we'd wait for Taurus season, but then we broke things off. Never did full scene. Is fantasy unrealized lesser than fantasy realized? Might both claim status as some form of the real. We made a real thing together, the idea of a scene that could be enough. But I wanted the real material. I wanted King George's extracted matter. I wanted to feel how it would feel to participate in the beef and dairy economy. In this way, I could get closer to the bull and to the cow. I'll stop there.
Amazing. When I the first time I read that essay, I was like, I told everyone who was around me what the essay was about, and they were like, "Cool." I do okay. How did you decide to post the ad on Lex and not Field?
Was Field even around then? I don't know.
Hmm.
This was like 2022, 2023. Okay. Who knows?
When did Field emerge? Okay.
It was around then.
Around then.
It was around? Okay. I was not on Field.
I just think if this ad were to sort of emerge on Field today, I think you would get a lot of bites. um, for a sequel. Well, so many questions. At what point in writing this book were you like, I need to inseminate myself with bull semen?
Well, I was trying to figure out like, well, I teach a class called creative research. can I apply when I teach? And that's kind of it.
Amazing. You also have a prop for us.
Oh, I do, yes. Um, so if you're wondering what the logo looks like, this
Okay.
so this is Cattle Visions, which is a bovine genetics distribution center. It's really fascinating. Yeah, I mean, you can find this all online, but like, for example, this guy, marketing.
Wow.
I don't know. Marketing is my solution. Okay.
Is he your type?
That's what I think about that. Close.
Okay, well, we can go back to human human questions. I wanted to ask about the role of like speculation and fantasy in this book. One of my favorite scenes in this book comes in the essay Tres Leches, which is about the three Megan Milks out there, yourself included. And you imagine this sort of like road trip with the other two Megan Milks, and then you meet in this diner and you sort of you share a milkshake and then you merge into a mega Megan Milks. Amazing. I wanted to ask, like, when did you have the idea? How did you decide to incorporate like fantasy and speculation in a book that's ostensibly nonfiction?
Yeah, thank you for that question. Yeah, so for me, like these moments of fantasy were really just workarounds when I couldn't like access the things I wanted to work around, the things I wanted to access. I was like, how can I get this in another way? The fantasy of Tres Leches came about, that emerged from disappointment. Like, I really wanted to connect with the other two Megan Milkses who are both queer. There is at least one other Megan Milks who does not appear to be queer, but we can hope. I mean,
It's just a matter of time.
One of the queer Megan Milks is just like very much not online and hard to find online. I actually considered like hiring someone to like try. I was like, that's maybe too much.
Imagine applying for a grant. Getting like, "Let me switch in the book."
And then the other one is someone I'm connected to on Instagram, and we like each other's posts all the time. But when I approached her asking if she would be interviewed for this piece, she like expressed some like nervous interest and then kind of disappeared. And I mean, I think she has at that point at least she had a newborn and like many things going on in her life. So totally all respect. So then I was like, but I still want to write about this imaginary. I mean, I wanted to have this like conversation with them. So I was like, well, I guess I have to do it in fantasy. And so then I was just like, well, what would we do? What could we do? How would that look? And that was really fun to get into.
I love that. I love that as, yeah, fantasy emerging as like a workaround for real world disappointment, but it's like almost the scene is maybe even more climactic and more like, yeah, expansive than maybe a real world interaction. But who knows? Maybe you would meet and you would merge, and then you would make the headlines. Um, Aside from the cattle visions brochure and the um, Butch, it's all Butch 2011. What other pieces of art did you write this book alongside that maybe inspired the book or inspired you to write the book?
Yeah, so one big one was Angelo Madson's film North by Current, where Madsen is a experimental documentary filmmaker, and in this film, I mean, it's a complicated film, but one of the things that he does is he enlists his family members into like doing reenactments with him of like traumatic scenes from the past. And he engages with his family in various ways. And that really, seeing that film made me wonder, what possibilities there were for me with my family. I didn't do any reenactments or anything like that, but it just kind of like made certain things seem more possible. Um, and similarly, the Gerard Carmichael reality show, also I think, um, adopts various strategies to like try to do some kind of like family repair. And those were both texts that emboldened me to attempt that on my own. Though I don't think I was successful in doing that.
Mhm. Thank you. Yeah. I wanted to ask about the last essay in the book called The Squeeze, which you mentioned one of the essays takes the form of the squeeze machine. And part of, I guess that essay is about like the financial reality of working as a writer, being a working writer, the compromises sometimes you have to make between like art and work and financial stress. And I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about your experience as a working writer and maybe if like finances help shape the book at all.
Yeah, that's a really good question. Um, yeah, I mean, I think we're all navigating this all the time, right? And for me, I think the thing that I have compromised the most on when it comes to like work, like wage work and creative work, is intimacy. And that's like that often gets squeezed out, which is something that I've been trying to change in the last several years. But yeah, it's a squeeze. With this book, I was really interested in kind of using it as a way to deepen connections with various people in my life, and like really thought about it as like a community affair. So even as I was like, well, I don't know. I lost track of the question a little bit, but I think I'll leave it there. Yeah.
Oh no, totally. I mean, I guess on this subject of like your community and your friends who appear in this book as recurring characters, when I was reading the acknowledgments, I noticed that you thanked 5 writing groups who helped you write this book. Not at the same time, but yeah, I would love to hear more about like your writing community, those the stories of those writing groups, how they helped you, yeah, how they helped shape this book.
I love writing groups. Yes, I can see at least like I don't know, 4 or 5, 6, maybe more people, probably 10 people in here have been in writing groups with me actually. And thank you so much for your contributions to this book. Um, yeah, I can't do it without writing groups. I need the deadlines. I need the people to write to. I need the brilliant minds to milk. And yeah, I love a writing group. And yeah, if anybody wants to talk writing groups with me, I love talking about writing groups. Sabrina is now in a writing group with me.
Being milked.
I mean, I hope that I am being milked as well. I am available.
Milking.
I'm available. Um, and then I also want to mention the larger community that that lives around, that exists like around and inside this book, because there are so many people who contributed to the book in like direct and indirect ways. Like I said, I became a kind of milk magnet when I was working on it, and I talked to a lot of different people. Just Jess Dobkin is here, who has done a lot of amazing performance and artwork with Milk and was an amazing source. Josh Cohen is here, who also contributed so much with his research on the cultural power of milk. And then there's like so many people who've just like sent me memes or like milk jokes over the years. So yeah, it's really a community affair. So thank
Amazing. We're gonna do one more question and then we're gonna open to audience Q&A. So if you have any questions emerging, sit on them. You'll have your chance to ask them soon. Something that I was curious personally, as I often feel guilty about what I eat, and I have a complicated relationship with eating cows and beef. And I was curious if writing and reporting this book like changed your relationship to the food that you consume, your relationship to dairy products in general.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. I think it made me just like really aware of how much labor goes into the production of any of our food, but especially like dairy and meat products. And I think I was also, I mean, I don't think my habits didn't really change. I don't really eat that much beef, and I don't really consume that much dairy. But yeah, I'm much more conscientious of like where those food products are coming from.
Mm. And I mean, your scenes at the dairy farms are so it's very special and intimate to see sort of cows at all stages of that process and the farmers who are trying to give those cows like the most dignified life as possible. Um, Amazing. Okay, so now it's time for audience questions. I see one right there.
Yeah, you might not want to talk about this, but I'm curious about the role Coop plays in your work.
Great. So I'll repeat the question for the live stream. We're curious about the role that Coop plays in the book.
Um, this question was not planted. Um, I had the tremendous opportunity to go to the North American Manure Expo in 2024. Yeah, that's right. And that's like there's like such an interesting relationship between manure and milk production, and it's all a cycle. And Yeah, there's one chapter where poop figures prominently, and you get to even become part of the poop. I mean, it's like a point of view. I don't want to spoil it.
Thank you.
Hi. The first essay that you read, you were describing like all the different cow paraphernalia in the house. And so my question is two parts. One is, did your family have a lot of cow paraphernalia because your last name was Milks? Maybe yes.
Yes.
Which is interesting. And the second part is, how did your family feel about you writing a book about their last name?
So just to repeat the question, the first was, did your family have a lot of cow paraphernalia because your last name is Milks? And you said yes. So that question is answered. The second question is how did your family feel about you writing this book about your last name and your family?
Yeah, thank you for this question. I don't know how they feel or have felt. I mean, I have engaged with them. I mean, I've involved them in several of the essays, the ones that they're explicitly part of. And my parents have read drafts of many of the essays in the book, and they've provided useful feedback. Um, and I have asked them how they feel about it and have not really gotten much of a response. They kind of like bypass that question and talk about other things. Yeah, I don't know. We will, I'm sure, over time, I will probably find out.
Any other questions? Yes.
Are you hoping to create inspiration for others with names that have a lot of meaning to them? Nonfiction to unpack names.
Are you hoping to create inspiration to other people who have very specific names who might want to unpack that in the form of a book?
Hmm. That I would not say that that was a goal of this book. But if it inspires people, that's fabulous. Sure, go for it. I'm sure that you, Buzz Slutsky.
I would love to read that book. There's another question over here.
Yeah. So now that you've written a book about milk, are you planning on writing about other fluids? And if so, which fluids are, you interested in exploring as a personal essay?
Are you planning on writing books about other fluids? And if so, which fluids?
I do not this present moment how to have plans, but I like this as a prompt. So thank you. I will be thinking about this.
I love your writing, Megan, and I'm so happy to have read so much of it. And I'm wondering if you have any fiction projects in the works.
Ooh, Megan, do you have any fiction projects in the works?
Thank you, Maya. That's very nice. I do. I am working on a novel. It's in very early stages, very, very messy. But yeah, I'm not going to say anything else.
I'm wondering if with this book you feel like you've put to rest the milk that has like tagged you throughout your whole life.
In this book, have you put to rest the milk that has tagged you your whole life?
Great question. Thank you. What always happens with books is that, or at least, I don't know. I don't know why I'm acting like I've written so many, but in the books that I have written and published, I feel like I'm doing all of this processing, putting things to rest, and then by the time the book is done, those things are put to rest. And then what happens is that the book has life after that. And then it's like, oh shit, now I'm gonna have to talk about eating disorders the rest of my life. Or now I'm gonna have to talk about milk. So yeah, I would like to have put it to rest, but I don't think that I think it's gonna be trailing me. I think I've invited it probably the rest of my life. Yeah.
Incredible to imagine you walking your path and your journey, just little driblets of milk following you. We have time for one more question, our final question.
Hi. So I got to read some of the essays, but not all of them yet. And I was really excited that you brought up some themes of like the nuclear family in the first essay and how it relates to milk. And you've already talked about sort of the connection with, how white supremacy has sort of taken milk as a, you know, but I'm wondering if like you can do like a quick 5-second like rundown of like some of the political things that you learned like reading this and that are in this book, because I just feel like it's really incredible how those are integrated into everything else that it's doing too.
So a quick, you can take longer than 5 seconds. Choose rundown of the political things that you learned while reading this book.
This is such a great question. And I mean, I think one of the main I guess like a framework that emerged was just kind of like how like the decline in milk consumption just so closely uh, paralleled the decline in the nuclear family. And then, now that's starting to shift as conservatism is on the rise. And yeah, I think I was really interested in exploring milk as a way into thinking about cultural division, as that's on all of our minds. And so it proved to be a really useful vehicle for doing that.
Yay, well, let's all applaud.
Thank you so much for coming in and celebrating Megan Life and Megan Milk.
Echoing Sabrina's thank yous. Thank you all so much for joining us. Thank you to everyone who asked questions. Thank you, Sabrina, for moderating such a great conversation. And thank you, Megan, for bringing Mega Milk to our store tonight. So what's happening next is that Megan will be around to sign your books. That's going to be happening right in the back where my coworkers are now pointing to. Yes. It'll make a little bit more sense in a moment, but we do ask that you please hold your hellos and your hugs and your congratulations until we get them set up back there because we've got a little bit of a journey to take on our way back. And if you don't have the book yet, we've got plenty of extra copies of Mega Milk, Slug, Margaret, all of those available for purchase tonight, as well as Sabrina's books, How Far the Light Reaches and Dike Geology. These are all truly fantastic books. They're all in paperback. They're all really worth your time and would love to live on your bookshelves at home. So please check them out. And that's all. Let's give these two one last round of applause. Thank you all so much for coming. Have a great night.